Welcome to Flashback, the show that takes you back to the NBA's most legendary actions. There are those moments that freeze time, seconds that seem like hours. A player takes responsibility. The fate of a team in a city depends on it. Several cents, the room holds its breath in petrified commotion. At this very moment, our world comes down to one thing. The trajectory of an orange ball that describes a perfect arc towards the hoop. We're in money time. The player has no more room for error. He has to be clutch. That indispensable blend of audacity, mental strength, and composure that distinguishes the greats from the very greats. It's the very essence of the NBA, a league where players are veritable superheroes. Today, we tell you about a shot that made history. One of those famous moments when a team's destiny changes. When one man, through sheer force of will, broke the spell of fate. A timeless moment. So let's pluck up our courage and go for it. Let's get out our famous time machine and head for Toronto's Scotiabank Arena on this May 12, 2009. Are you ready? Let's go. Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. The Raptors welcome the Sixers to a raucous arena. The two teams facing off have the ambitions and stature of champions. So far, the series has been fiercely contested. Each match is accompanied by a new tour de force. While Philadelphia won by 21 points in Game 3, Toronto retaliated with a 36-point thrashing in Game 5. Of course, there are close games too. But at this stage, it's impossible to say which team is better. 3-all, a perfect tie. Game 7s are always special. They are exhilarating, agonizing. A mixture of contradictory feelings, testing, and yet so dear to lovers of the orange ball. So it's only natural that there should be electricity in the air that night. After all, the result of this match will erase that of the previous 6. One defeat, and an entire season is wiped out. But the tension is even higher in this confrontation. To grasp the significance of this clash and its powerful energy, you need to take a look at the hands of these two teams. At this point, all eyes are on the Raptors' ace, Kawhi Leonard. In the great game of poker that is the NBA, there's no such thing as pure chance. When you want to win, you sometimes have to take risks, sacrifice a card to get a new one. Moreover, Raptors president Masai Ujiri is a master of his trade.
Thank you all for being.
When he learns that Leonard is in the draw, he decides to go all in. The NBA is greatly affected by the announcement.
How would you describe yourself?
Kawhi Leonard is transferred to Toronto. The high price of this addition is the face of the franchise, DeMar DeRozan, then holder of the record for points scored and games played for the Raptors. The fans' darling. Although he failed to bring a title back to the Great White North, DeRozan carried the franchise higher than anyone else. Everyone with unwavering allegiance. The breakup is heartbreaking, and the quid pro quo is far from consoling for the locals. At least it didn't, at the time. In this transfer, Ujiri hopes to hit the jackpot. But as in Vegas, 3 sets in a row is much rarer than it seems. When you put a coin in Bandi Manchot, you do so at your peril. In this case, Paris Kawhi offers few guarantees. NBA champion, Finals MVP, 2-time Defender of the Year, All-NBA team, and All-Star Game regular, Kawhi Leonard has one of the most impressive track records in the league. However, you have to understand that his record is much heavier and much more complex than that. The Spurs are no fools, far from it. They would never give up their best asset without good reason. When it comes to parting with its franchise player, San Antonio falls on down. But the White Walkers had time to see it coming. This transfer is the culmination of a long fall that began at the end of the year. That year, Popovich's army was imperial. a 61-win regular season, 2 playoff rounds serenely conquered in the wake of a Kawhi Leonard seriously considered for the MVP title. Life is beautiful, the sky is blue. Another wonderful season for the Spurs. Problem: the Spurs meet the Warriors of Curry, Thompson, Green, and Durant, who has just arrived in town. Golden State's Armada looks absolutely invincible. And yet, in the third carton of the first game, the Texans have a 21-point lead. Kawhi Leonard, with his 26 points, is shocking the NBA. But then, he hit a snag. After a shot in the corner, he fell on Zaza Pachulia's misplaced foot and went down. A vicious action that has become a symbol of unsportsmanship, as if Bruce Bowen's legacy were finally turning against his own. We wish gravity would stop for a moment and spare Leonard. Unfortunately, the ankle turns, and so does his luck. The injury prevented him from playing the remainder of the match and the series. Result: 4-0. A resounding sweep for San Antonio, who have just lost their best player. It's only a sprain, nothing serious on the face of it, but the fracture will come later. Only it won't be a bone fracture, but a psychological one. After the off-season, Greg Popovich announced that Kawhi Leonard would miss a few games to recover from a thigh injury. Confident, the Spurs had no problem with the player's representatives taking charge of his medical file. 2 weeks later, Leonard was declared out for the start of the season. A few worrying images were leaked. The Texan number 2's situation is unclear. He seems to be in trouble, but a mysterious veil shrouds the matter. Even his coach is having trouble keeping up. Fortunately, no one is really worried. For several decades now, the franchise has cultivated its reputation as a great mute. But the NBA is hoping for some reassuring news from one of its brightest stars. San Antonio finally appeases the fans. In December, everything seemed to be back to normal when the Claw set foot on the floor again. Even if he doesn't play back-to-back, he plays 9 games that give hope of a return to normality. But a new year also means new problems. On September precisely, it was announced that Kawhi would be out indefinitely. Terrible news. Then it all began again. With a quadriceps injury, he's back to square one. In Leonard's camp, his uncle Dennis Robertson takes up more and more space and becomes the main decision-maker in his nephew's affairs. Robertson is omnipresent in Kawhi's life, and that's hardly shocking when you know their history.
It's gonna be fine. That's why we're doing this.
After 11 years, there is still pain. Pain for a son who never knew his dad.
At just 16, Kawhi lost his father in tragic circumstances. While working at his car wash in Compton, a poor, gang-ridden suburb of Los Angeles, Mark Leonard is murdered by gunshot at the age of 43. The orphan he leaves behind finds the stability he needs at the home of his uncle Dennis. Could Kawhi Leonard have reached his basketball destiny without Dennis? In his eyes, Dennis Robertson is a father figure to whom he owes everything. From 2016 onwards, Robertson took his nephew's career under his wing. The player's former agent was sacked and replaced by a man he trusted. From then on, all communication between the Spurs and Kawhi went through Robertson. It gets harder to talk to the player, who was already not very chatty. The injury story gets to the point where the uncle systematically interferes with Kawhi's rehabilitation. Unable to understand what's going on, Leonard gradually disassociates himself from the team. He and his uncle lost confidence in the medical staff, and the player left for New York to spend 3 weeks with the best doctors in the country. To come back, not to come back. Kawhi trains on his own, but his team is losing faith. On March 22nd, in a press conference, Tony Parker asserts that his own injury, which he kept off the floor during the last playoffs, was 100 times worse than Kawhi's. From that moment on, the Claw knew he wouldn't be back all season. An emotional face-off with his teammates won't change that. The marriage has run its course. In a last-ditch attempt at reconciliation, Popovich travels to New York to try and patch things up with his cult. What did he come away with? A divorce petition. More precisely, a list of destinations. The ones to which Kawhi Leonard wants to be transferred. Split between the Lakers and Clippers, the Los Angeles native would like to return to his roots. The Spurs accepted his transfer. No more actions can be taken. Some partings go smoothly, but in this context, needless to say, the Spurs have no desire to let their ex leave for the arms of the high school hunk. Quite simply, Leonard will be given to the highest bidder. In this case, Toronto. The transfer is the talk of the town. There are doubts about Kawhi Leonard's ability to play this season if he's really injured. Masai Ujiri bets it's a bluff. He's willing to take the risk. Lelier will be a free agent the following summer and could easily leave for a hotter city. In fact, that's what's expected. Canada is far from his California dream. By sending DeRozan to San Antonio for so few guarantees, Ujiri is betting all his chips on this trade. In May, Masai Ujiri had already surprised fans by replacing Coach of the Year Dwayne Casey with his assistant Nick Nurse. Nurse has already spent 30 years on the sidelines. In college, internationally, in 10 leagues, he's only been in the NBA for 5 years, but seems ready to take the plunge. Even so, fans are skeptical. Between the departure of their Coach of the Year and their franchise player, they certainly have reason to worry. Some are even pointing the finger at a boarding attempt. But Ujiri remains in sole command. This year he knows the Raptors have their chance, and they have to take it. Even if it means the project could fall apart in the offseason, now is the time to go all in. LeBron James, who has completely blocked the Eastern Conference for 8 years, finally leaves his throne vacant. The tyranny is over, and a place in the NBA Finals has opened up. Those known as LeBronto at the time were certainly the most moved by the Kings' departure. With his cards reshuffled, Ujiri took advantage of the situation to take over. New coach, new ace in the person of Kawhi Leonard, the Raptors march on the East. Second in the conference with a record of 58 wins and 24 losses, Toronto achieved the second-best regular season in its history. Paradoxically, this is one less victory than the previous season. Yet, this time around, the franchise's fans believe in it more than ever. In Canada, the stars are aligning. Pascal Siakam, elected strong, almost unknown in the big league, became a lethal weapon. From 7.3 to an average of 17, he was awarded the trophy for best progression at the end of the season. Like Siakam, the energetic and likable point guard Fred VanVleet has come through the G League to take on a new dimension as a sixth man. Arriving as part of the DeRozan transfer, sniper Danny Green is having one of the best seasons of his career. A string of three-point gems and high-flying defensive sequences. Marc Gasol, a rugged pivot and defensive specialist, arrived mid-season in a trade with the Grizzlies. The former Defender of the Year and All-Star logically relegates Serge Ibaka to the bench, giving Toronto one of the best second units in the league. Kyle Lowry is the perfect lieutenant. Like a true maestro, he breathes life and rhythm into the team, which he leads with his wand. Then the star, the champion, the hero of this team, Kawhi Leonard. The Raptors know how to do it. They take it easy on him and spare him the back-to-back. The whole city pampers him. Like a pasta rooster on this team, he is enjoying one of the best seasons of his career. 26.6 points, 7.3 rebounds, 3.3 assists, marvelous percentages and highlights galore. The Raptors have everything it takes to be champions. They're finally ready to take the crown that LeBron left behind. In the first round of the playoffs, despite an upset in Game 1, Toronto has no trouble getting past the Magic. It's only natural, given the series of their leaders in total control. Around 28 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 56% shooting, including 54% from three-point range. In the conference semifinals, things got tougher. That year, Sixers general manager Elton Brand decided to take Masai Ujiri's crazy gamble. To surround his two nuggets, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, he pulled out all the stops. First, he set his sights on Jimmy Butler, taking advantage of the conflict between the four-time star and the Wolves. A true leader, tenacious and determined, Butler seems to be the perfect player to lead this group to the title. The second bold move was for Philadelphia to sacrifice a number of assets to acquire the Clippers' rising star, Tobias Harris. The parallels with Toronto are obvious. In fact, both teams will be in the same situation come summer, as their two new recruits will be free agents. In this series, two franchises are putting their futures on the line. Let's get back to this seventh game, which is supposed to separate the two Eastern behemoths. So far, despite the 33 points per game of an unplayable Kawhi Leonard in the series, the Sixers' armored collective is on a par with the Dinos. Game 7 was no exception. From start to finish, the score remained extremely close. Fans of both teams don't have a second to breathe in this stifling encounter. Philadelphia's 5 major players are moving forward in unison. Embiid and Butler are in the thick of things. Tobias Harris and Jake Jaredick stay sharp, waiting for the ball. Ben Simmons is leading the game, while the Raptors depend heavily on their Messi. Though their star is exceptional, the team is struggling to find its playoff rhythm. Fred VanVleet has vanished completely. Kyle Reese struggles to find the right shots. Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka can't keep up with Joel Embiid on the offensive end, and the same applies to most players. Sol Siakam assumes the role of second knife. In this context, all the balls go to Kawhi Leonard. His teammates humbly put themselves at his service, a strategy that has worked so far. As usual, the cyborg is on top form. He's programmed for his big moments. At the end of the match, he scores Turuki on his shot. A performance worthy of the greatest, certainly historic. In the fourth card, he shifts up a gear in an attempt to break away from his opponents. Contemplative, his teammates can only admire his prowess. Isolation after isolation, on indefensible shots of which only he has the secret. He scores 15 of his team's last 25 points. Philadelphia can do nothing to stop him. If they can't stop him from scoring, the only solution is to score more than he does. Well followed by Joel Embiid, Jimmy Butler takes the reins of the team and tries to reduce the small gap that separates his team from the Raptors. With 10 seconds to go, Leonard finally makes a mistake at the line with his team leading by 2 points. He's only human after all. During the finals at the end of the year, this same blunder certainly cost the Spurs a title. Even without a Ray Allen to spoil the party, Toronto fears the worst. Missed shot. Tobias Harris finds the rebound and passes the ball to Butler, who sprints on the counterattack. This is the Sixers' only chance. Serge Ibaka sticks to the basket, but he knows he has no time to find another solution. Jimmy's composure speaks for itself, and he attempts a perilous layup, which bounces off the backboard and then the hoop to cross the net. At 90 all, Butler may have put his team back into overtime.
.2 to go!
The Raptors have just 4 commas left to play their final possession. In this grueling encounter, they absolutely must avoid overtime. Victory can't wait. Nick Nurse takes a timeout, draws up a system. Suddenly, he thinks back to a tactic borrowed from an old Ubi Brown DVD. In 10 leagues, this system has saved the day several times. Will it do the trick this time? It's up to the pitch. Marc Gasol makes the throw-in for Kawhi Leonard. The hero can only be him, sent by the basketball gods. He only has 4 seconds, but he can't shoot immediately. That would be far too predictable. He runs to the corner to try and find an opening. Kawhi is defended by Simmons. but Joel Embiid knows that everything depends on these few seconds. Overwhelmed, Kawhi still manages to get a shot off as the buzzer sounds. The clock reads 0. Time stands still with him. Freeze frame. With Kawhi on the run, the Sixers defended as best they could. Blocking access to the circle, they forced the Raptors player to take a contested shot away from the basket. Joel Embiid gave his all. To stop the shot, he was only a step away from countering it. With his huge hands, Leonard let the ball go, but the shot was contested. The Sixers' pivot has accomplished his mission. The ball rises particularly high. The shot is of unparalleled difficulty. Toronto can only pray. The chances are slim, but it's only when it comes down that the ball will give its verdict. The Raptors, their fans, their opponents, all hold their breath. A second seems like an eternity. The ball hits the hoop. It misses. It bounces a second time, a third, a fourth. And finally, they pierce the net.
It's off to Leonard, defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger? Game! Series! Toronto has won! Kawhi Leonard! With the game winner! Hanging in the air! The ball suspended in air! In some 18 years later, the Raptors get the shot to go.
Scotiabank Arena exults. The Raptors explode. Overjoyed, the whole team rushes the hero of the evening. Excitement sweeps through Toronto. Outside the arena, the Jurassic Park fans, based in the Raptors' special fan zone, can't stand still. Leonard's final shot gives them a ticket to the second conference finals in their history. And they can continue to dream of the title that is just around the corner. Arms. More than ever, the Canadians have every right to believe. The Sixers are left with nothing but tears in their eyes. Fate has done its work, but as the old saying goes, job not finished. To reach the NBA Finals, the Raptors will first have to get past MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo's Bucks. Trailing 2-0 in the series, they made up for it thanks to the awakening of Kyle Lowry and Orban, but above all with Kawhi Leonard as the big man on both sides of the court. 4-2, a result that doesn't surprise many people. If Kawhi can make that shot, he can make anything. This team exudes the aura of a true champion. 2009 is the year of their first NBA Finals, a historic feat for this group. But it's still not enough. Like an air of nostalgia, Kawhi Leonard returns to the Warriors and finishes what he started. This time, injuries are on the other side. Defending Finals MVP Kevin Durant plays just 12 minutes in the series. Klay Thompson, first with a thigh injury, then with a cruciate ligament, missed a full game and a decisive fourth quarter. His luck ran out. And now, the tragic scenario of the finals benefits Toronto. Kawhi Leonard finally got his revenge on the Warriors and on life. 4-2 again, but this time on the big stage, and against the team that had been widely tipped as the title favorite just a few months earlier. On the floor of Oracle Arena, the Raptors are crowned NBA champions. A sense of pride pervades the whole of Canada. It's not just the players and fans who are euphoric. It's a national celebration. In the arena, at home, on the street, wherever it may be, all those who witnessed this historic moment couldn't help but shout their joy from the rooftops. None of this would have been possible without the transfer of Kawhi Leonard, of course. But also without the arrival of Nurse and Gasol, without the sacrifices of this collective, and without this legendary shot. Jimmy Butler, one of the big losers of the evening, will say it himself. To win a ring, the stars have to align. Everything has to work properly. Masayu Ujiri, the architect of this wonderful team, forced the sky to smile on him. What would have happened if that shot hadn't gone in? If Joel Embiid had jumped an inch higher? If the first rebound had sent the ball 2 centimeters further? What if Larceau, capricious plaything of the basketball gods, had decided to reject Kawhi's offering? We'll never know, and that's certainly for the best. Humble and true to himself, Leonard prefers to credit his heroic deed to luck. But, we told you, pure chance doesn't exist in the NBA. This shot, this title, is the result of a lifetime of devotion to the orange ball. It's a dream come true, that of a franchise and a basketball player fighting against all odds. After all, that's what destiny is all about. When things are too good, they seem accidental. But deep down, how can we not believe that all this was written?